$10,677. That is the number of farmer suicides recorded in India in 2020. And out of these, 5,098 belong to labor farmers, that is also known as farmers engaged in contract farming. Good morning to everyone present here. I am Hitanshu Sani of Group 16, and today, with me and my group, we are here to present to you about the ills of corporate farming. Agriculture is the backbone of India, with over 70% of the population depending on agriculture for its main source of income. Since a vast majority of citizens are engaged in farming, there is bound to be some adverse effects of the same. And one such example is related to corporate farming. Now, to further explain the details about corporate farming, I would like to hand it over to Ayan.
Corporate farming. Corporate farming is an initiative attempted in many Indian states alongside contract farming. But what is corporate farming? Corporate farming refers to a direct ownership or leasing in or farmland by business organization in order to produce for their captive processing requirement or for open market. This is a system for the production and supply of agriculture produce under forward contract between producer and supplier and buyers. Essential to this, the buyer demands for a specified time, price of the quantity and quality from agriculture supplier or producer. Moving on to the next slide. Objective of the study. The objective of studying about cooperative farming is to find out the progress by private sector made in agriculture, to find out amount of income generated by corporate farming, and to find out advanced level of technology being used in corporate farming. Moving on to the next slide. Research methodology. The types of data, primary and secondary data. Primary data was collected through Google Forms, and secondary data through internet, websites, books, and own intellect. Samples were collected from 50 respondents. Now we will learn about corporate farming laws by Shruti.
Hello everyone, myself Shruti Gaikwad. I will talk about the government regulations of corporate farming. Corporate farming or contract farming will give corporates an entry into the agriculture sector. They will proceed to aggressively capture new lands, thereby rendering many farmers penniless. Recently, a provision made in Gujarat allows non-farmers to be given in the status of a farmer, resulting in the possible misuse of this law. Now, the 2020 Act on Contract Farming will suppress the 2018 law. Keeping the 2018 law as base, some states have enacted own legislation on contract farming. Now, such laws will also stand null and void. Earlier this year, the Union government passed three heavily contested farm bills in Parliament. The Farmer Produce Trade and Commerce, that is Promotion and Facilitation Bill, which aims to dismantle existing trade and distribution monopoly, is enjoyed by the Food Corporation of India, that is FCI, and Agriculture Produce Market. It is also difficult to ensure that the big corporates do not enslave the already marginal farmers by allowing both verbal and written contracts. The center places the farmers at the vulnerable end of the bargain with no redress. Both farmers and consumers run the risk of the exploitation by placing the market in the hands of a big business. Now I hand it over to Upasana for the further explanation.
Now let us know the advantages of corporate farming. So the main potential advantages to the farmers are: the first one is provision of inputs and production services. Small-scale farmers usually faces difficulty in gaining access to inputs. In corporate farming, many arrangements involve considerable production support, such as land preparation, field cultivation, and harvesting, in addition to the supply of basic inputs, such as seeds and fertilizers. The second one is introduction of appropriate technology. New production techniques are often necessary to increase productivity as well as to ensure that the commodity meets the market demand. Since agri-based firms have a direct economic interest in improving farmers' production, therefore they offer technology more diligently. The third one is skill transfer. The skills the farmer learns through corporate farming may include record keeping, the efficient use of farm resources, improved methods of applying fertilizers, and by following a strict timetable imposed by the extension service. Through corporate farming, The farmers also gain access to credit as well as to reliable markets. Coming forward to next slide, that will tell us about the main potential advantages to agri-based business. The first one is quality consistency. Markets for fresh and processed agricultural produce require consistent quality standards, and agribusinesses therefore find that small-scale farmers and their families are more likely to produce high-quality products than farmers who must supervise hired labor. The second one is profitability. Since agri-based businesses believe in quality consistency and also conform to regulatory controls regarding production techniques, the scope of their produce getting sold in the market is high, which in turn will be profitable to them. The third one is efficiency and effectiveness. Since the corporates indulge in improved monitoring by extension staff, farmer training respond to food security and quality concerns of the consumers, etc. There is optimum utilization of installed capacity, infrastructure, and manpower. Moving forward to disadvantages of corporate farming. The main potential advantages to farmers are the first one is the disadvantages to farmers are the first one is indebtedness, production problems, poor technical advice by the company, significant changes in market conditions, and uncontrolled advances can increase the indebtedness of farmers up to uneconomic levels. The second one is increased risk. Farmers should be prepared to balance the prospect of higher returns with the possibility of greater risk, especially when a new crop is introduced or when the prior field tests are inadequate. The third one is dependency. A farmer becomes dependent on the companies as the latter may employ the previous owner farmers as workers in the land. Coming forward to next slide, that will tell about the main potential disadvantages to agri-based businesses. The first one is farmer disconsent, discriminatory buying, late payments, inefficient extension services, poor agronomic advice, or management's rudeness to farmers will result in the latter's withdrawal from projects. The second one is social and cultural constraints. In communities where customs and traditions play an important role, difficulties may arise when farming innovations are introduced. The third one is input diversion. A frequent problem is that farmers are tempted to use inputs supplied for purposes other than those for which they were intended. This is not acceptable to the business as the yield and the quality of the crop will be affected. Now I hand it over to Harish to explain the incidents of corporate farming.
Thanks, Upasna, for the explanation. Now I will go on talk about incidents concerned by corporate farming. There is one negative and one positive incident. Negative case of Pepsico. Pepsico has been involved in corporate farming in Punjab for 3 decades now. Pepsico establishes its first unit in Punjab after signing a memorandum of understanding with the state government. PepsiCo was after green chilies and tomatoes, but after some time, PepsiCo began to take potatoes from the farmers. As a consequence, large landowners get profit and medium and small landowners weren't. For example, PepsiCo needs sugar-free potatoes and provides the seeds to farmers. However, if the yield does the quality check, PepsiCo refuses to buy it, causing a loss to farmers. Farmers argue that the law will benefit private companies more than its farmers. They fear that corporate will hijack the agriculture sector. The major drawback is that insufficient insurance scheme for comprehensive crop protection in case of natural calamities. A law not only farmers but company as well as set by a farmer. There has to be trust between farmers and companies. It's a matter of mutual trust and not of law. The next positive case of Apache's cotton. Apache's cotton is situated in Pollachi, an Indian-based company mainly involved in gaining of extra long staple cotton varieties. It enjoys a very high level of credibility. The singer in the street play assured cotton farmers that unlike in the past, they would not be disappointed if they cultivated cotton on their fields as they would be backed by a model called the integrated cotton cultivation, which would guarantee a market supportive mechanism for selling the produce. The Apache formula ensured that its farmer members never went short of money and materials during the crucial 100 days of crop cycle. The crop assured that the farmers easy availability of quality seeds and farm finance of an interest rate of 12% per annum. The Apache's formula different from other corporate farming models on its pricing, as cotton is a commodity prone to price fluctuation due to domestic and international market forces. Did not wish to create a climate of uncertainty due to prefixed prices. With corporate farming, the ACC model has given opportunity to the farmers for gaining profit. The Apache's formula of corporate farming has been successful in Tamil Nadu. That's it from my side. For further explanation, I would like to hand it over to Ritesh.
Arguments for the proposition. Reduced agriculture wastage. Timely harvesting of crops can help reduce agriculture wastage, but this type of harvesting is done on only 2% of farmland. This type of harvesting leads to increase in production. Next slide. Better quality yield. With extensive use of pesticides, the chances of getting damage reduces and help them getting good quality of harvest. This farming also encourages the food cultivation technique that increases the storage life for export. Reduce reduce minimum support. Corporate farming helps in increasing output and also it reduces minimum support price. This means that you have to pay less than what you have paid 5 years ago and also reduces the crop price. Next. Argument against the proposition. Lower profits for farming households. Agriculture business are widening their horizon in agriculture due to decrease in profit and increase in cost. They are being forced to enter into contracts. After entering the contracts, the farmers lost their power of bargaining and they have to give the harvest at given quoted price. Next. Reduced nutrition. Corporate farming gives high yield, more profit, but on the other side, nutritional value of food as well as land is decreasing due to excess use of pesticides, insecticide, coloring agent, chemicals. There is a great impact on the land and food. Higher environmental costs. Technology has increased the pace, but it is difficult for the environment to cope up with the speed. This is disturbing the natural and the biological balance. Water bodies are drying, soil quality is decreasing, pollution is increasing, and there's a vast damage to the environment. Now I would like to pass on to Hitanshu.
Now, to further explore into this concept, we prepared a questionnaire which received 50 responses, and these were the following results. Out of the 50, 29 were between the age of 15 and 18, and 19 were between the age of 19 and 35, and the rest were above 46. This shows that we have a quite a variety of ages in our responses. Now, as we move on, out of these 50 participants, 23 were female, 26 were male, and one belonged to the other category. And out of these, 41 of them were students, 4 were part-time employed, 4 were full-time employed, and 2 were part-time employed. This shows that we have a very good variety of respondents which give different views of this topic. Then we asked our participants whether they were aware about corporate farming, and out of these, the results were that 4 were very extremely aware, 8 were very aware, 24 had general knowledge, and 14 had no knowledge about the same. Now, as we move on further, we asked whether they knew that India has the highest rate of farmer suicide due to corporate farming, upon which 13 did not know, and the 37 which knew about the fact. This shows that even though there are quite a few people who know about it, there is quite a majority of people who don't know about this topic. Then we inquired about with our respondents whether they knew the reason about farmer suicide. Upon which 30 believed that they were not paid well, 3 believed that because they were overworked, and 11 had the opinion that because their welfare was not taken care of, and 6 believed that there was no reason. Now, as we move forward, we asked the participants which type of farming do they think is the best, which had two options. One was corporate farming and one was family farming, out of which 18 said that corporate farming was better and 32 said that family farming was better. Then we asked our participants if they could suggest anything to the agriculture support service, which is basically the service provided by the government for agriculture based businesses, if they could give any advice to them, out of which 11 said that they would give the advice to increase the incentives, 24 suggested to increase the minimum support price, 7 suggested to waive off the existing loans, and 8 were in the opinion to increase the restrictions on corporate farming. Now, as we move further, we asked our participants whether why they thought the agriculture system was so flawed in India. Out of which 13 said that the management was incompetent, 9 said that the current laws are insufficient, while 26 said that the wrong people have the wrong powers, and 2 said that the system as is very perfect. Then we asked if they believed that corporate farming was good for India, of which 17 were in favor, 9 were against, and 24 were in a neutral opinion. Now, as we move forward, we also asked our participants whether they believe that if government intervention is there in corporate farming, it would lead to food security, out of which 14 said yes, 14 said no, 4 said no, and 32 were unsure about the fact. Then we concluded our survey by asking if India were to adapt reforms from successful countries like France, Canada, USA, and other countries, that corporate farming would actually be beneficial for India. Upon which 36 said that yes, 3 were against it, and 11 did not have an opinion. Now, as we move forward, what we could conclude from this was that a majority of people knew about the ills of corporate farming, but there still remains a vast majority of people who have very minimum knowledge about the same. So to spread awareness, one such thing we can do is what basically I'm doing: spread knowledge, create PPTs, fest and everything to inculcate the knowledge of corporate farming to many other people of the country. And another conclusion we could derive from the same was that a majority of people were quite unsatisfied with the current workings of the government. Even though our prime minister has brought in many steps to improve this as a country, but we still lag far behind the many big states like Canada and USA. So, like for example, recently we had a march in Delhi for farmers, so which was very successful. So such type of activities can help India to grow as a nation. Now, to finally conclude, I would like to acknowledge our sources who have provided us information about the topic. And now, finally, I would like to thank the audience who were very patiently listening to us. Then I would like to thank our teacher who has given us this opportunity to present on this topic. And finally, I would like to thank my group mates who were very cooperative and helpful till the very end.